You may choose to configure your multi-layer switches at the distribution layer as DHCP servers. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, it prevents you from having to put a specific DHCP server in the broadcast domains that the clients are in, and it prevents you from having to forward those DHCP discover messages off to a server that might be in a server farm or hanging off the distribution layer switches. You are bringing that service to the same device, the multi-layer switch, that's also acting as the default gateway for those end stations. So there is advantages to doing that. As you can see, you're bringing that service closer without having to have any dedicated devices that are DHCP servers. If we look at this configuration here, we can see that we've created a DHCP pool called XYZ10, and it's handing out IP addresses for the network 10.1.10/24, but it's not handing out all of those IP addresses. For example, there's also excluded addresses from this pool, and the excluded addresses are 10.1.10.1 through 10.1.10.20. So this multi-layer switch will not hand out these IP addresses. So it's going to start handing out IP addresses at 10.1.10.21. It's going to start from there and work its way up. It's also going to supply to clients a default gateway address of 10.1.10.1, which will more than likely be the IP address of this multi-layer switch. So it's more than likely also the IP address of the SVI for VLAN 10, and if we look down below, it is. Notice how it says IP address 10.1.10.1/24. Well, that is the same IP addresses of the default router, so we're handing that out to the end stations. This is also really important to realize, is that the multi-layer switch will only hand out IP addresses if it has an interface that is part of the same network it's handing out IP addresses for. So if we look at this IP address, it's 10.1.10.1. Is that part of the network we're handing out IP addresses for? Yes, it is. Now, it is an excluded address because we don't want to give out the same IP address that we're using as a default gateway. So it is an excluded address, but it is part of that same network. And this is really, really important because if the IP address of this interface is 10.1.10.1, and we're handing IP addresses out to clients out this interface of 192.168.2.0/24, does that make sense? Is that going to work? No, it's not going to work. This is going to be a disaster. Because now the clients have IP addresses in different subnets than the interface of the default gateway, the exit point out of the network. So it won't work. It can't happen. So the multi-layer switch won't even hand out IP addresses out an interface unless that interface has an IP address that is part of the same network they're handing out IP addresses for. So it's a safety net. It's a safety mechanism to make sure we're not just throwing IP address out random interfaces to end stations. There's also this option 150. What is option 150? Well, in this case, it's identifying an IP address of 10.1.150. Well, this is the TFTP option. And this is very valuable when we are dealing with Cisco IP phones. When we specify option 150, it's going to tell the IP phones which TFTP server to use to download their configuration information. There's other options like option 43, which can be used to tell a lightweight access point where the wireless LAN controller is. Or option 69 to tell a client where SMTP services are, or option 70 where POP3 services are. So there's a lot of different options available to extend the basic functionality of DHCP so we can inform our clients of different services and features that they should be utilizing as well within the environment. We can also specify the lease duration. In this case, we see lease 0 So 0 days, 8 hours, 0 minutes. That's what that's referring to in this case.